appointed more than a dozen members to a consultative committee that will review the Constitution, but the House of Representatives and the Senate will still have the final say on charter change. Today, a Senate committee continues discussing proposed changes to the Constitution. Retired justices and lawmakers weighed in on this very controversial move. Our senior correspondent, Cecil Rizabal, monitors the hearing for us. She joins us on the phone from the Senate. Cecil, what are the highlights of this hearing?
Hi, Pia. There are many constitutional experts, as we see here during the hearing. For one, former Associate Justice of Supreme Court, Vicente Mendoza, he says he believes there is a need to change the Constitution, but if the reason for changing the Constitution is to shift to a federal form of government, he says we should think twice, as he believes federalism will weaken and fragment the republic. The reason he believes is that it will intensify regional differences, it will promote patronage politics, and will create political dynasties. He says that if that is the case, then there is a strong tendency that villages will be ruled by tyrants. Mendoza said that he wants that some provisions of the Constitution, particularly the provisions on human rights, amended, make it more independent as the Commission on Audit, the Civil Service Commission, and the supposed independence provided to the Office of the Ombudsman. Now on the voting process, Mendoza said that it is clear in the Constitution that both houses of Congress will sit jointly but will vote separately. Whether it should be Constituent Assembly or Constitutional Convention, he says it depends on the nature and what is being proposed. But what is more important, he said, is that if we change the Constitution, we also need to change man's nature to conform with that Constitution. Today's hearing gave the chance for all resource seekers to share their thoughts in 5 points. One, if there really is a need to change or amend the Constitution, then what's the best way to do it? It is through Con-Ask or Con-Con. How will senators and congressmen vote? Is it going to be voting jointly or separately? And how will the people benefit from this constitutional change? Pia.
Cecil, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, Christian Monsod, was there. What is his take on all of this?
Yes, Attorney Monsod has a somehow similar take. He said whether through Con-Con or Con-Ask, it doesn't really matter, but what matters, he says, is the behavior of the politicians. He said some people blame the Constitution, but the problem is not really the Constitution, but our legislators who slept on the job for 30 years to fully implement the law. He's also skeptical about federalism and the argument that it will address poverty and unequal opportunities in the country. He raises this question to the ruling PDP Laban party. If the push for federalism is so critical, then why is there no mention of it in the Philippine Development Plan? In other words, he's saying that all the problems being mentioned by the president, such as drugs, poverty, etc., are issues of governance and therefore can be addressed now and does not need any change in the Constitution. He also makes it clear that he is not against federalism, but believes now is not the right time for it because it's just going to be a messed up reform. If he said we will fast track the process, if the intention will only be political and nature. Assistant Secretary Jonathan Malaya of the DILG's Communication and Capacity Development came to the defense of the president and the PDP Laban. He said with the experience through the years of with his experience in local government, they have seen the centralization of resources, including the bulk of the country's budget, and so they've carefully studied that federalism is the highest form of decentralization. And he's telling critics of federalism to stop creating fear and propagating fear among people about federalism when the only intention is to uplift the lives of the people. Apparently, former Senator Joey Lina shares also the view of Attorney Monsod. He is not in favor of the change from a unity form to a federal system of government. He agrees that addressing current problems such as lack of budget and development does not need a change in the Constitution. Rather, the solution should be in the manner of implementation and that decentralization can be effected within the present Constitution. Yeah.
Cecil Rizabal there reporting from the Senate. Senate President Coco Pimentel, who is also the president of the Partido ng Demokratikong Pilipino or PDP Laban, the party of President Duterte, urges the public to support federalism. Pimentel explains PDP Laban has been pushing for federalism because they believe it is the way in which the country can achieve equitable economic growth within our lifetime. Under the party's proposed type of federalism, provinces will have more political and economic autonomy.
The change we advocate is not cosmetic only. PDP Laban, and we are proud to say this, is not afraid to propose drastic changes. So our proposed change is structural. By giving more powers to regional governments, the regions could pursue their socio-economic agenda that is focused on their developmental needs, which they should know better than the center of power or Metro Manila.
The Supreme Court weighs in. The President has no jurisdiction to discipline Deputy Ombudsman. Malacanang has suspended Deputy Ombudsman Arthur Carandang for supposedly spreading false information about the President's alleged bank accounts. But speaking to CNN Philippines, Supreme Court spokesperson Theodore Atty explained a 2014 High Court ruling effectively voided the President's disciplinary jurisdiction over a Deputy Ombudsman.
Kapag ang Korte Suprema ay baba ng desisyon na unconstitutional ang isang batas o isang portion ng isang batas, ibig sabihin nun, wala na po yung batas na yon, no? Kasi hindi naman po pwedeng magkaroon ng isang batas na unconstitutional. So dito sa desisyon na ito, involving the Deputy Ombudsman, malinaw po yung sinabi ng Korte. Unconstitutional siya, walang kapangyarihan yung Pangulo na disiplinahin ang Deputy Ombudsman dahil ito ay paglabag sa independence ng Ombudsman.
Attorney Manny Luna, who filed the complaint against Carandang earlier, said he will ask the Supreme Court to reverse its decision. Te explained the decision is binding until it is set aside, and petitioners must show proof that the High Court was wrong in its ruling.
Hindi naman po malaking bagay sa Korte kung magpapalit siya ng isip. Basta merong katibayan. Ang question po talaga doon is, ano po ang batayan na gagamitin? Ngayon, dun sa usapin po na ano po yung legal status sa ngayon as far as the power of the President to discipline, malinaw po yung legal status. The legal status is the 2014 decision is final, executory, and binding until it is set aside. Ngayon po, kung merong gusto maghain at sasabihin, mali po kayo, no? Kailangan ipakita niya na meron siyang interest sa sabihin yon, meron siya katibayan na nagkamali po yung Korte Suprema at makukumbinsin niya ang Korte Suprema na mali sila.
Some opposition senators support the ombudsman. Senator Antonio Trillanes calls Malacanang's order illegal, unconstitutional, and a clear case of obstruction of justice. He plans to sue Anti-Money and Laundering Council Director Mel Racela for denying it gave documents on the President's bank transactions to Carandang. Senator Kiko Pangilinan also backs the ombudsman's decision. He says she is simply upholding the rule of law. Customs fixer Mark Taguba is now in the custody of the National Bureau of Investigation following an arrest order issued by a Manila court. He is at the center of the multi-million peso drug shipment that slipped, or multi-billion peso drug shipment that slipped through the Customs Bureau last year. But the job is not yet over for the NBI. Anjo Alimario has more.
Just hours after the Manila Regional Trial Court ordered the arrest of the 8 accused in the illegal importation of more than 6 billion peso shabu shipment from China, customs fixer Mark Taguba decided to voluntarily surrender. Well, that's according to his narrative. As far as the National Bureau of Investigation is concerned, Taguba was arrested.
He was arrested from turnover ito galing sa Senate, no? But technically it's still an arrest because a warrant was served on him.
Taguba says he's ready to face the allegations against him.
Kasi inosente naman tayo. Wala naman tayong kailangan ikatakot. So kung maaresto man ako, alam kong mananalo naman ako. Harapin na lang.
Taguba has asked the court to throw out the case against him. He says he's been transparent all throughout the Senate investigation.
Pina-forensic ko yung phone ko, binigay ko na sa kanila lahat ng kailangan nila, pati bank accounts ko, dinisclose ko sa kanila, mga call logs, kahit yung mga nakakahiya na, nandoon. So, hindi ko na lang alam kung paano nila gagamitin yun. It's up to them.
His thought of becoming a state witness, will he do it?
Pag-iisipan namin siguro ng attorney ko, itatanong ko sa kanya.
The NBI is still tracking down 7 of Taguba's co-accused.
Agents of the NBI now are in the different parts of the country to try to locate the others named in the warrant.
Of the 9 charged, only Richard Chen has no arrest order because of his pending motion to determine probable cause against him. Taguba and his co-accused are facing a separate case in Valenzuela for transporting and delivering illegal drugs, but there's no arrest order yet for that. I'm Jolly Mario, CNN Philippines.
More local news later on the show.